What's going on, people? We're back after a week off in which I was very busy shooting the titular short film that is always in our intros, or rather our outros at the end. We are back with our another twofer, similar to what we did last year when we did Lockdown and Dave back to back. We have episodes 10 and 11 of season 3 that we're going to be doing back to back. Tricia Tanaka Is Dead and Enter 77. So we're going to be coming back to you live with that episode right after this one. But first, Luke, how have you been, man? It feels like it's been so long since we last saw each other.
I've been good. We're taking a week away from the island, but through circumstances we had to, and it hasn't invaded my dreams for a while. I saw one battle after another. It wasn't maybe the generational movie some proclaimed it to be. It was very, very good.
Yes.
And we're back to Lost.
Yes.
Only a few movies coming out for the rest of the year. Most of them I'm not going to see it until they show up on streaming or whatever. But we'll cover whatever does show up.
I can tell you right now that just based off the 3 movies that I saw this past weekend, that none of the movies that are coming out for the rest of the year are going to top the ones I saw at TIFF, except for maybe Marty Supreme, just based on the reactions that they've been getting. But when Tron Ares might be my favorite movie that I saw this past weekend, because the other 2 movies, one is going absolutely nowhere, and the other one is definitely going to get a nomination for Rose Byrne, and that's about it ultimately. But we're back after. It's so funny how after we talked about Stranger in a Strange Land, easily the worst episode of Lost up until this point, how it caused me originally when we watched it to take a 2-year break from Lost. I love how that was the episode that we took a 2-week break from in between through no control of the episode itself. But I thought that was just a really, really funny bit. But we're back. First off, Tricia Tanaka is dead. And I did warn you. I believe I did warn you. I'm like, trust me, the beginning of this episode is going to be really, really silly. But the rest of the episode is more than going to make up for it. And that's exactly what we did. We have a reunion of sorts, much less of biblical proportions than the reunion that we had last season when Sawyer, Michael, Jin, and the tail end survivors reunited with our mainland survivors this time. So in this episode, we have Kate and Sawyer making it back to our mainland group of survivors, reuniting with them, telling them everything that's happened to them since they originally left with Michael all of those moons ago. So this episode has a couple of different subplots, and it is a filler episode per se. But as you said, it is absolutely one of the better filler episodes that we have had, because this is infamously the Hurley finding and building the Dharma van episode, and possibly, maybe, curing himself of the curse. Maybe.
I don't know. That curse has been following him all around, but now the island seems to be the one place where the curse doesn't quite affect him, or at least his own character stuff is helping him move past the curse. Okay, of course, the flashback, we get a little bit more of Hurley's family history. His dad shows back up again.
Another infamous lost father figure right here.
Exactly. Like, oh, there it is. Like, we already knew his dad was probably a scumbag because he just dipped
just
or whatever.
Out on him.
But now we get you. Okay, he's a proper scumbag.
Yeah. And played by Cheech Marin, of all people.
Yeah, I didn't recognize. I did recognize the face in the next episode. I was like, wait.
Yes.
So we'll get to that,
but we'll get to that one.
As I said, it's a filler episode, but it is a masterclass in filler episode, which Lost is very good at.
Yeah, this is a fun one. Ultimately, it's one of those like fun little like filler episodes / character like filler piece. We get a couple of other important bits of information as well, but like I said, primarily this is the Hurley moving past his woes episode. We've spent it's funny because as important of a character as Hurley is, we haven't spent as much time with him throughout these first 2.5 seasons as I would have thought. We infamously had the numbers episode with him where they deliberately took their time building up to, okay, we found out why all these other people are on the plane. Why is this guy on the plane? We found out it was probably for the most bizarre and probably most mystical reason of them all, with the numbers and then the curse on him, all these bad things that happened to him after he used them to win the lottery. Then we have a couple of other like bits of pieces of information that are filled in. The whole idea of it's like, oh, everybody just wants to use me for, all the good stuff. Nobody actually likes me for who I am. Then the whole thing of like him being locked up in the asylum and the whole imaginary friend thing and whether or not everything, Hurley has been kind of the subject that, everybody has kind of been like projecting all of their own woes and thoughts of what they think the island is going to be onto and what the setting is going to be onto them, because it feels like every chance that he has to play an important part of the plot, he takes a back step ultimately. He goes with the group at the end of season 2, but is ultimately let go by the others. He's sent back to warn the rest of them to, not bother them while they take Jack, Kate, and Sawyer and we obviously see what happened there. But this is the episode where it's like, okay, you can tell that after the infamous Jack flashback in the last episode, they're like, okay, we're gonna start winding down the flashbacks, because I feel like while the first couple of flashbacks, the good ones we've gotten this season, are like tying up all the loose threads that are left in the flashbacks, we're continuing with that here. So we got Sun's wrap up, we got Locke's wrap up, even though we have a couple more. We got Sawyer's wrap up, we got Echo's wrap up. Now we're getting Hurley's wrap up, and then Saeed's is in the next episode as well, where after all of the bad things that have happened to him as a result of getting the numbers, his father, played by Cheech Marin, shows up for the first time after 17 years. The whole thing, reason why he left originally is because he said he was going on a business trip, and that's the reason why they couldn't go on that trip to the Grand Canyon. And then 17 years later, he shows back up, and he only shows up because his mom called him, because Hurley has officially decided that he is giving away all the money and he is about ready to go on his trip to Australia, which we saw in all the way back in the numbers is the very first flashback. That's the reason for why he, in order to try and locate the source of the transmission of the numbers, which ultimately came from the island itself, as we later came to find out. So, but like I said, this one, it's once again a continuation of the flashbacks that we've gotten used to in this episode, in the sense of where it's all about kind of the characters coming full circle with where they started, because you're going to see at the end of this season, the flashbacks take a drastic shift, and we are no longer going to get them as such. But it's really, really good character building for Hurley. It's really, really important, because this entire time he's been very insecure about pretty much everything. And this is finally where he's starting to take charge a little bit. He's starting to take control of his own destiny. It's another little bit of, it's like, oh, everything sucks. Let's go and do this fun side quest so that we can distract ourselves from the inherent misery of our situation. And it leads to him basically recruiting Jin, whose son is attempting to fruitlessly teach English to find this, Dharma van that's been overturned in the woods. And the whole thing that they're like, yeah, we're going to fix this van, and it doesn't matter what's going to happen. And then eventually Sawyer and Charlie are dragged along for the way.
Yeah, it's very much the boys are back in town, which is one of my favorite lost bits, when they just get like 4 or 5 dudes who just say, okay, we got to go do this thing. And this time it happens to be building a van, and get Sawyer back, like finally get Sawyer back with the main group. We've been waiting for that for like most
Sawyer. Hurley's like, there's beer in order to incentivize him.
I'm like, oh, this beer is probably like 30 years old. It's been sitting in the jungle.
It's gonna be rancid. It's gonna be nasty, but they're gonna drink it and be like, this is gonna be delicious. And I'm like, your livers are gonna be regretting that decision after a bit.
Yeah, so you get a bit more loose Sawyer, which is always fun. he's cheering with the skeletons. It's like just letting Josh Holloway do his thing. And then so it's really just as I said, it's self-contained, like mini project. Just get the van working, and then will the van go anywhere? That remains to be seen. But still, it's like like I said, filler, but the best kind of filler.
It's just nice, is what it is. It's a nice, self-contained, fun episode after the dreariness, the misery, the ambiguity of spending all that time on Hydra Island in the first 6-7 episodes. Now we're like finally starting to progress the plot a little bit, and like I said, we got some very interesting side plots here as well. Charlie's in a little bit of as the episode starts, Hurley's literally like, Charlie, stop moping around. And he's like, I'm not moping around. He's like, dude, you're sitting on the beach just looking out at the water. That's code for moping. I love it. Hurley is also consistently the character that comments on all of their signature tropes that they've developed throughout the show. I love it.
He's kind of like the audience stand-in in many ways. So
very much so. Yeah, Charlie's trying to confront Desmond about what he said to him in flashes before your eyes. Desmond's like, yeah, I was really drunk. Charlie's like, don't play daft with me. I know exactly what you meant. So when's it going to happen? When am I going to die, essentially? And then Sawyer comes up and he's very angry at them about stealing his booze and everything. And then I want to talk briefly about this split between Sawyer and Kate that happens. Like, I don't know, because if the split itself had happened in a stronger episode, I wouldn't have been as mad. But considering that, like, they got mad at each other because Sawyer let Carl go, and it's like, Kate wants to go back and rescue Jack, and Sawyer doesn't really care. I don't know. I feel like this is another one where it's like, this could be a little bit stronger, or if this just yet another season 3 instance of Lindelof and Hughes really feeling themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like a very quiet split. Like Kate just goes off to find Jack, and Sawyer stays there. So I don't know. I guess they didn't make that big of a deal with it. Maybe they hadn't figured everything out by then. They were writing. They were like, okay, we'll just put this on hold, and we'll pick it back up when Kate get back, and sort of thing. When they have a plan to get Jack back, and because this is kind of like okay, we got at least Kate and Sawyer back to the main group, so that's gonna simmer for a bit until they figure things out. Again, the next episode is more plot action heavy. But yeah, I think we just have to. You know what's gonna happen, but I have to wait and see.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of a wait and see, but that one's kind of just like, okay, we're gonna take this storyline, we're gonna put it on pause for the next couple of episodes at the very least, you know. And like I said, it's shows a continuation as far as how we're going to get to the end of the episode. But primarily, it results in, like I said, some very funny bits as Hurley is flashing back and forth between the present and the past, you know, trying to figure out how they're going to fix the van ultimately, even when it seems like it's going to be a futile task. I think a really, really funny tidbit in the flashbacks is when his dad takes him to see a psychic when they're going to do the curse.
That was very good.
Saying all that pertinent information, and Hurley figures it out in 5 seconds, once again proving that, contrary to popular belief, as it consistently proves, he is not dumb. He's actually a very, very smart character.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I'll give you a grand.
He's like, I will give you a grand.
I'll give you 10 grand.
I'll give you 10 grand. He's like, your dad put me up to it. And she folds immediately. I was crying laughing there. And then his dad is trying to give him the same old spiel of, it's like, look, he's like, the curse is ultimately just in your head, which I think it's safe to say that up until this point, with everything that we've seen with Hurley, the flashbacks, the curse is not just in his head. There is a lot that is actually happening in
he's getting meteors thrown at his
that's the thing too that we got to talk about. Is as good as the episode is, the beginning with the signature Tricia Tanaka Is Dead, where he's getting interviewed after buying his old job, Mr. Clucks, you know, the boss that chewed him out for not being as good. And then he leaves. And then the reporters are interviewing him. He's telling her about all the bad stuff that happened. She's getting mad at him because it's supposed to be a puff piece. Then she goes inside with her cameraman and a fucking meteor hits. That's what I'm like. Oh, that's the one instance of an otherwise really good episode where I'm like, dude, like Lindelof, what are we doing here? Like, what? Like a meteor? Really?
Does the island have such cosmic power to throw a meteor at a... Like, no, you will not run this fast food run. You must go to Australia.
Yes, you must go to Australia and discover the source of the transmission. It's like, guys, like I said, I love Lost. I love Lost for all of its flaws. But, man, this is the season where I remember being like, oh, man, is this a perfect show? I don't know. Because this is where a lot of the silly stuff started to happen.
Like you said, it's the one where they realize, okay, we have to start thinking about an ending.
So like, we don't know how we're gonna get there, but we do have to start thinking about it. So
of course, there are many didn't like that, but
of course the network was like, are you insane? Did people actually watch this show? Was an exact word I believe that a network executive used when speaking with Lindelof. So I thought that was a relatively fun one. But yeah, like I said, it ends with they get the van working. It's a really funny moment where basically Hurley is looking at Charlie's like, look, dude, you're gonna die, so just get over it. You can either like be a coward or you can stare fate directly head on and be like, fuck this. And then before they send them running down the hill, and they somehow manage to magically get it working. And it ends with them driving around in little circles and having fun. It'd be like, yay, we got it working. Whoo.
Yeah, I will say I remember, like, it was around the time when we started watching Lost. I was just like scrolling Reddit or whatever, and it recommended the Lost subreddit to me. It was a picture of like them running after the van. I'm like, no, I'm blocking Lost. I don't want to see this.
I'm like, don't fall for that. I'm like, don't fall for that trap. Don't fall for that trap. That is one that many people have disappeared into, trying to figure out like, oh, was the island real? What was the island? It's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
It was just like, did this scene make anyone else just happy? And like, oh, they're in a van. Okay, I'm gonna block that subreddit. I don't want it popping up. So I was like waiting for the van episode.
I will say, it is a Chekhov's van situation. It definitely is a Chekhov's van situation. So it will come back around. But for now, it's just the introduction. That's all we need. And really, the only other major thing that happens is, like I said, Kate basically filling in Locke and Saeed, who have basically taken over as the two leaders for right now, as far as everything that's going on. And Locke mentioning, oh, we have a compass heading that we can use based off of Echo's stick. And I'm like,
that's a bit. Did we see that?
I don't think so. I mean, there was that glance that Locke gave to Saeed at Echo's funeral. And then the whole thing of where Locke was like going into the jungle, and then Saeed was following him. But other than that, I'm like, I don't think there was that much of a hint there.
Maybe they were like, okay, we'll just hope that the week-to-week audience misremembers something,
Yeah,
and we
I
can
have a
fill in the
feeling.
gaps.
I have a feeling that's what that
They
was.
did not suspect the binge era to
Yeah,
begin
yeah,
a decade
they
later.
didn't see the binge era coming. But ultimately, it's Kate is like, "Look, I'm going after Jack, and you guys aren't going to stop me." And Locke and Saeed are like, "Well, what about the truce?" And Kate's like, "Look, they said it themselves that where they actually live was not on that other island. They live somewhere on this island, so we have to find them." And then it shows Locke and Saeed following her into the jungle, and Kate's like, "Look, Locke, I don't want you to try and talk me out of this." And Locke's like, "Actually, I don't remember what he said because that was 2 episodes ago, but it ends with them finding Russo essentially, and basically Kate convincing Russo to come with them because basically like, look, we were saved by a teenage girl. Her name is Alex. I think she's her daughter because she looks like exactly like you. So basically, like filling in the threads there because we found out that Alex was Russo's daughter last season in the Soul of Claire episode, where we also ironically found out that Claire's dad was Jack's dad. So Jack and Claire are sisters. So what is going to be the results of that fruitful meetup? Tune in for the next episode, which we will be queuing up right after this.